It's day 2 of the US government shutdown, the first one in 7 years. It's already turning into one of the biggest political flashpoints in modern American history. The White House is warning of layoffs, and the blame game is on in full swing. Republicans are pointing fingers at Democrats. The Democrats are blaming Republicans as the deadlock continues.
The Chuck Schumer AOC wing of the Democratic Party shut down the government because they said to us, we will open the government, but only if you give billions of dollars of funding for health care for illegal aliens. That's a ridiculous proposition.
At midnight, Donald Trump and Republicans shut the federal government down because they don't want to provide health care to working class Americans.
It's a deadlock that has put the world on edge. Remember, this is only a partial shutdown. Essential workers are still reporting to duty, but they are working without pay. Non-essential staff have been sent home on unpaid leave. The impact of this shutdown may look limited and temporary, yet observers remain nervous. The shutdown is already having wider consequences. It affects the outlook for the US economy, and it shapes decisions made by global investors. There are 2 big reasons why. Now, number 1 is linked to economic data. Since the US government has shut down, some key economic data won't be released, like the monthly jobs and inflation reports. Now, what do these reports cover? It contains key numbers and data, like how many jobs were created or lost, how much prices are rising. The flow of this information has stopped since the government is witnessing a shutdown. Now, why is this significant? You see, this data is essential. It is used to make economic policies. It influences decisions of policymakers like the US Federal Reserve or the Fed, and that's the Central Bank of America. It uses this data to decide interest rates, the rate at which banks extend loans to their customers. The Fed relies on job numbers and, crucially, inflation data to make these decisions. Now, without these reports, the Fed could be flying blind. Now, that's how one expert put it. This is the impact of the shutdown on America's economic leaders. It's harder for them to figure out what's happening in the American economy. If they have less data, it may lead to less informed decisions on matters that impact everyone's lives, jobs, savings, even the cost of living. So that's the first red flag. Now, the second is linked to currency. Now, this shutdown directly impacts the US dollar because the longer the shutdown lasts, the weaker the dollar could get. That's the assessment of the MUFG Bank. Now, the MUFG Bank is one of the world's largest financial groups, and according to them, the dollar is at risk of further losses. They have issued a warning of sorts. The MUFG's assessment says that this is because if the shutdown drags on, the US Fed could slash interest rates, possibly as early as October, and again in December. And when rates fall, the return on dollar assets falls too, and that makes the dollar less attractive. The fear is even bigger this time. In the last shutdown in 2018, there was room for compromise. But this time, in his second term, President Trump has been far more aggressive with his policies. Experts fear that Trump may not be willing to compromise. He might double down instead. Already, Trump has threatened mass firings of federal workers. If that happens, the impact would be huge. Hundreds of thousands could lose their jobs, and America's growth would take a bigger hit. Markets would then price in a deeper economic slowdown and a weaker dollar. On paper, this shutdown is just a domestic budget crisis, but in reality, it has far-reaching consequences. Each day without a budget deal means more pressure on the American economy, America's central bank, and the US dollar.